This is a rare chance to look at the exact same moment in time, 5,000 years ago, across very different geographies, to compare how people were living, thinking, and building their world in what we now call India, Mesopotamia, Britain, United States of America, and Australia. Some were building cities with advanced layouts. Some were aligning stones with the stars. Others passed down deep spiritual knowledge through stories, not books. In this episode, we'll explore that moment in history, side by side, through archaeology, anthropology, and real evidence. No myths, no glorification, just the truth. In what is now northwestern India and Pakistan, an ancient civilization flourished around 3000 BC. We call it the Indus Valley Civilization. But locals lived in cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Dholavira, planned, precise, and puzzling. This was not a land of pharaohs or emperors, no grand palaces, no obvious signs of monarchy, but instead a kind of quiet brilliance. Cities were laid out on grid systems. Roads intersected at right angles. Homes had private wells and toilets. Wastewater ran through underground drains, something even many modern cities struggle with. Seals show symbols, animals, and deities. Some believe they mark trade. Others think they reveal early spirituality. The script remains undecipherable, but the sophistication is unmistakable. People bathed in large public tanks, perhaps ritualistic. Terracotta figurines suggest worship of mother goddesses or proto-Shiva figures. There were fire altars too, linking later to Vedic rituals. Unlike others, this society didn't shout through monuments. It whispered through symmetry, sanitation, and silence. Trade links stretched from Mesopotamia to Gujarat. They dealt in beads, copper, cotton, and maybe ideas. It feels less like an empire, more like a network, structured, peaceful, spiritually layered. And then, around 1900 BCE, it fades. Not with a bang, but with a withdrawal. Water systems broke down, cities emptied. But its ideas didn't vanish. They echoed. In the Vedic age that followed, rituals, cosmology, and societal organization built upon these foundations. India, 5,000 years ago, wasn't just living. It was designing a way to live. Moving west from India, we find Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. This area is now mostly in Iraq and parts of Syria and Turkey. By 3000 BCE, cities like Uruk were already growing big and busy. People started writing, but not stories or poems. They wrote down things like how much food they had, what they traded, and taxes they collected. They wrote on clay tablets using a system called cuneiform. In Mesopotamia, religion was connected to power. The gods were like rulers who controlled the city. People built big temples called ziggurats, tall, stepped structures that looked like towers. These temples were the center of the city's life. Just to the east, in what is now Iran, lived the Elamites. Their cities were smaller and less crowded. They also wrote and had strong local traditions. Their culture was a mix, connecting the mountains to Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. Mesopotamia was important because it was one of the first places to have cities. Writing and organized religion all together. But these cities were often in conflict. Different city-states fought each other to control land and resources. Life here was busy and complex. People grew crops like barley and dates, raised animals, and traded goods across long distances. They also built irrigation systems to bring water to their fields. Even though the region had many problems, like wars and floods, it set the stage for future civilizations in the West. So, Mesopotamia was a place of new ideas about government, religion, and writing. But unlike the quiet cities of the Indus Valley, it was a land of strong leaders and competing powers. Now we move far south, to a land with no cities or temples, but full of ancient wisdom. 5,000 years ago, Australia was home to Aboriginal people whose families had lived there for more than 50,000 years. They didn't write books, they didn't build palaces, but they had a deep connection to the land, passed down through memory, story, and song. At the heart of their world was something called the dreaming. Dreaming was a way of understanding everything: the land, the animals, the seasons, even the laws of life. They believed that long ago, ancestral spirits shaped the world. Every river, rock, and tree had meaning. To keep this knowledge alive, people shared it through stories, dances, and songlines, songs that helped them travel across huge areas by remembering sacred places in the land. They didn't grow crops like in India or Mesopotamia. Instead, they hunted animals, fished, gathered bush food, and used controlled fire to manage the land and help plants grow. They were experts at living with nature, not against it. Some Aboriginal groups even built clever things, like stone fish traps in rivers, or ancient stone circles that lined up with the sun, like a natural calendar. There were no kings, no armies, no written rules. But there was order, based on family, respect, and spiritual law. Their way of life wasn't about building big things. It was about keeping old wisdom alive and living in balance with the land. Let's look at two places far from each other: Britain, United States of America. Around 3000 BCE, people in Britain started building something unusual. They dragged huge stones across long distances and placed them in circles. The most famous is Stonehenge, but there were many others across the region. These stone circles were not homes or forts. They were probably used to track the sun and seasons, especially important events like the summer or winter solstice. They didn't have metal tools or writing, but they observed nature closely and worked together to build something that lasted thousands of years. On the other side of the world, in what is now Louisiana in the United States, Native American cultures were building large earth mounds, like the ones at Watson Brake. These mounds are just as old as Stonehenge, and even older than the Egyptian pyramids. People carried baskets of soil and carefully shaped the ground into circular or oval formations. Like in Britain, these weren't cities. They were gathering places, possibly for rituals or seasonal events. These communities didn't have large-scale farming yet. They mostly hunted, fished, and gathered wild plants. But they had clear social cooperation, and they had beliefs passed down through stories and practices. Even though they didn't leave behind written records, they left behind clear signs of planning, observation, and respect for the natural world. So, while cities were rising in some parts of the world, here people were shaping land for spiritual and social life, not through buildings, but through the earth itself. 5,000 years ago, the world was not the same everywhere, but it was alive with many different ways of living. In West Asia, people built strong cities with kings, temples, and writing. They wanted control and order. Their cities had big temples and powerful rulers. In Australia, the Aboriginal people lived without cities or temples. The songs and the land. They remembered the land through songlines, special paths that told stories and helped them survive. In Britain and United States of America, people used stones and earth to connect with the stars and seasons. They made places to mark time and remember their ancestors. They didn't build cities, but their work showed deep respect for nature and time. In India, the Indus Valley people built cities with careful planning. Their homes had toilets and drainage, showing they cared about cleanliness and health. They didn't have kings or big temples. Instead, their order was quiet and balanced, with a strong sense of community and spirituality. Each place found its own way to live well. No one way was better than the others. Some built big monuments, others built ideas that lasted. India's story is special because it shows how a society can be organized without rulers or wars. It shows how people can live in balance with their surroundings and with each other. The past is not about who was the strongest or richest. It's about how people found meaning and survived together. Looking back at these different worlds helps us understand more about ourselves. Even after 5,000 years, their stories still speak to us. They remind us that there are many ways to be human.